Happy Tuesday, everybody. This week, got a lot going on. We got some animal discussions going on for our Instagram lives and with other people too, not just Stephanie today. Got more stuff coming up this week. And then Friday, I don't know if you guys are aware, I should think most of my followers probably are. This Friday is Endangered Species Day, which is a pretty important day. Obviously, for most of us in this line of work, every day is considered Endangered Species Day. The work we do for educating others, taking care of animals, all sorts of stuff like that, along with conservation. We're always thinking about endangered species. But Endangered Species Day is a day for us to hopefully raise awareness and maybe bring into light some things about endangered animals that others didn't know. So hopefully it's an opportunity that collectively we can raise awareness. So one thing we know, history has shown us, raising awareness, educating others, getting people involved does make a difference. So Endangered Species Day is important. Looks like Stephanie is all ready to go. So Stephanie, I'm going to come over here and get you to join me. Wait for Stephanie's response. If anybody watching right now while we're live or catching us later does not already follow Stephanie, please do. There she is. Hey, Stephanie.
Hey, y'all.
How are you?
I'm very good.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. I think we all know we are in different times dealing with different things. Most of my lives now coming from my home instead of the zoo or safari park. One of my first questions I want to ask you, my friend, how are you doing and what are you guys doing to cope with all the changes we're dealing with?
Uh, Tim and I are actually doing quite well. I feel like we have been staying at home since February because we think we did get sick with coronavirus in February. So we were down for 2 to 3 weeks with that.
Wow.
We got back from the Alaska Sea Life Center Gala, and then we went out and about for about a week, and then California created the stay-at-home order. So we've been up in our tiny house where we're used to working and living from home and spending a lot of time together since February, essentially. And I think there was a few times in March that I had a really hard time with it. I think when you don't really know all the details and the numbers yet of who gets sick and how you get sick, and the first time going to the grocery store was so scary. And I tried to stay cool, like I'm not that scary, but I was really scared. And
Right.
now we're getting a better idea of, I've been to the grocery store X amount of times, and I don't know anybody personally that has gotten it, but I know a lot of people who have had family members pass away. So getting a better idea, selfishly, as a human being, where I am at on all of this,
Right.
helps me manage my fear more appropriately while still doing what we can to protect others, regardless of whether we've had it or not. But I mean, we're doing great. We've had a lot of opportunity to work out and read and relax, which we don't always let ourselves do. Tim and I have been really creative. We've written a children's book. We have worked on a podcast. We have worked on another separate project for a curiosity stream. And Tim has been selling his art like crazy because people have been trying to be supportive of him. So I think we're doing okay in every area. Again, trying to read and meditate. If I need to vent or cry, I do. If I need to connect with somebody, I will. So I think mentally we're both doing really good. How are you guys?
We're doing all right. Like yourselves, we've kind of figured out this rhythm, I guess, or this current normal that we're dealing with, and the adventures of being essential employees and still having to go to work some days out of the week, and also dealing with homeschool stuff, and then the essentials, grocery shopping, and everything else. Kind of figuring all that out, but yeah, it's always kind of curious to see how everyone's doing, how they're coping, and then how those of us in our line of work are managing as well as communicators to wildlife and conservation and the work we do. You are doing a lot of work with, like you said, Curiosity Stream and all that. I know you and Tim have been doing a lot of work where you travel, do video, produce stuff. So it's nice that you're able to do that from home still.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to hear things are going well for you guys. You guys are hanging in there, because I know a lot of folks are having some challenges. That's for sure.
Well, I mean, in all honesty, Tim and I don't have children. That's a huge thing. A lot of parents are not used to having their kids 24/7, and having to homeschool.
Yeah, the homeschool part is what's getting a lot of people. It's now becoming parent and teacher and trying to figure out computer programs and distance learning. So yeah, that's definitely challenging too.
Also your job full time and be stressed out about your family members getting sick. So, in all fairness, Tim and I are not in a position where we have a lot of the pressures and stressors and worries that some other people do. So I just want to make it very clear that if I did, I would probably not be doing as great. But
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, well, like I said in the story, to tell people what we're doing here, and when I reached out to you initially to see if you wanted to do this, my goal this week, it's we're ending this week on Friday as being Endangered Species Day, and I'm trying to think of different ways to be creative, to engage people, to get people talking about different animals and stuff, and it's easy to go down, or not easy, I guess it's expected to go down that path of talking about endangered species because we're heading into Endangered Species Day. But I want to kind of take a different angle on it. For those of us that kind of surround ourselves with or have plenty of opportunities in our lives to be in contact or in proximity to animals, I thought it'd be more fun to see what is the most memorable animal encounter people that do our work or people we know kind of have, and kind of have the opportunity to tell that story and express that. Because Endangered Species Day, the work we do, the conservation we do, gets its strength from connection to other people, and those connections come from good storytelling. So tell me, Stephanie, and anybody who's going to be watching this later or watching right now, what's your most memorable animal encounter?
right away when you asked me this, I hate this about myself, but the first thing I thought was all the sad encounters immediately, because those are the ones that I think are so incredibly powerful that fueled me to be like, I need to teach people about the disconnect between ourselves and animals. So I really sat and thought about what were some of the positive, powerful experiences that I've had, which of course, just like you, we've worked really hard and got ourselves into positions where we get to have a lot of really amazing experiences. And I'm very grateful for that. But that means there's a lot to pick from. And so I was like, okay, which one is probably one of the ones that are most powerful to me? I'm gonna pick one, and it was in 2010 or 11. I moved to Australia, and I traveled all around the coast from Sydney up to Cairns, Queensland, and I got myself a job on the Great Barrier Reef. I was working on a dive boat, teaching people about the Great Barrier Reef and all the animals, and then taking people out diving and snorkeling to go find those animals. It was a dream job. It was so amazing. And I remember being able to see some of these animals for the very first time after working primarily with land animals. So jumping in the water and being able to see an anemone fish for the first time in real life, and sea turtles up close, and white tip reef sharks, black tip reef sharks, octopus, cuttlefish, all these animals just blew my mind. And I was like, there could be nothing more impressive and amazing as this. I finished my contract with them, and I got the opportunity to travel over to Western Australia. So I went to Perth, flew to Perth, and road tripped all the way up to where I'm pretty sure is the edge of the earth. This is Exmouth, Western Australia, because I found out they have whale sharks that pass by the Ningaloo Reef there, which is a very famous reef. It's super healthy, and primarily because not as many people travel there and dive on it, so it's super healthy. But I heard there was whale sharks and manta rays and humpback whales that passed by this reef during the spring because they have a coral spawning event. And for those of you who don't know coral spawning events, coral are animals. They're related to sea jellies and anemones, and they are little tiny, looks like upside down anemones that expel coral, or expel, oh my goodness, I'm blanking, their shell around them, which is calcium carbonate, and they create these structures that look like just giant rocks, but it's a whole coral reef system, right? So how they mate is, or how they procreate, they just release a bunch of eggs and sperm, and so it just like shoots up in the air and it floats, and some of them connect, and then they drop down to the ground and they create new coral structures all around the ocean. Well, believe it or not, that's the whale shark and manta rays and humpback whale's favorite food. Nom nom nom, right? So every year when this coral spawn happens, all of these filter feeding animals come out and go, woohoo, buffet. So I tried really hard to get a job on a whale shark boat. So this is where, just like with the manatees or any other dive boat, you get to work on a boat and you get to take people out snorkeling in the morning on the reef, and then you go out into the open ocean and you're partnering with spotter planes that are flying up above
Oh,
you
wow.
looking for the shadow of a whale shark, and they're all at different heights. Talking to about 8 different boat companies that have 20 guests per boat.
Wow.
I'm being specific because there's a partnership, obviously, with the government and conservation organizations to make sure everything's done properly.
Right.
And so we go out, and it could be an hour, it could be 4 hours before a whale shark comes up to the surface. So it really is a very big deal when it happens. The pilots up above call down and say, all right, we got a whale shark 30 meters west of Draw Card, the name of the boat I worked on. And so then I had kind of an audition to get this job. And on my first day, I remember jumping into the water and them going, okay, just go. It's 30 meters that direction. It's going to swim right at you. So just sit in the open ocean and wait for a huge whale shark to swim towards you. And I had no idea what I was getting myself into. So I jump into the water, and then I realize, oh my God, I'm sitting in the open ocean like a floating buoy. And I am all around me. I'm surrounded by coral spawn. So it's like these, at this time, the best way I can explain the way it looked is kind of like, you know, those bubble teas? Yeah, it's like a pinkish bubbles that were floating around in the water, and you can barely see.
It can be pretty thick, yeah.
Yeah. And so now I'm kind of like, heart's beating underwater. Like, what did I get myself into? And I'm waiting, and I'm sticking my head up at the boat going, where is it? And they're like, sharks that way, 10 meters. And I'm looking, and I'm looking, and I'm looking, and I see something that I'm like, oh, is that a tiger shark? No, it's not. And then I'm looking, and I see these manta rays and devil rays are barrel rolling, eating all of this coral spawn. And I just like stopped in the middle of the water, just started floating, and probably started drooling, which is like, wow, this is so. Then from the depths comes this huge whale shark, and I can't really describe. It's amazing how large it was, but it was still quite camouflaged because of the counter shading that they have. It's quite effective.
Yeah.
And so it comes up from the surface, and all of a sudden I just see this huge mouth that can be like 1 meter wide go just straight at me. And by this time the boat has floated closer to me. And I can hear him on the speakerphone going, move, move. But I was so stunned that it just at me, and I was like, what? And I hit it, and I rolled off of its body, which is so technically illegal. You need to move. You need to give them 30 meters or 3 meters. But I was so stunned by this huge whale shark coming at me, and how beautiful it was, and the coral spawning, and the manta rays, they were rolling. I don't think I've ever been that stunned in my entire life. I was laughing underwater. I was breathing in salt water and choking. Oh my gosh, it was just such an amazing experience. I popped my head up, and the guys are like, swim with it. So the training is, I spot the whale shark. I need to get 3 meters away from it, and then I swim sideways with my arm up, telling all the boats around me and the planes above that I have spotted the shark, and I'm with it right now while it's at the surface, regulating its temperature and feeding. And you have to keep up with it, which a whale shark's tail just does this.
Yeah.
But man, I'm still like, oh, like I became an Olympic swimmer that summer, that spring that I worked with whale sharks. And I remember just trying so hard to keep up with this whale shark and being blown away by all the beautiful spot patterns. And eventually what they do is 2 other guides bring out people, and those guests get to swim alongside the whale shark for as long as they can keep up. And then when they're tired, the boat picks them up, and I have to stay with the whale shark with my arm up so that we don't. People spend a lot of money for this experience, and there's days where no whale sharks come to the surface, and then there's days, especially during the coral spawn, where 5 of them come up from the depths, and you're just like, how is this happening? It's so magical. It was just such a cool experience. I remember getting on the boat and I was laughing and crying, and I remember saying something like, this is like living in a Wild Kingdom episode or like in a Nat Geo episode. It was just such a remarkable experience, and I was hooked. And thankfully, I got the job and I was paid to do that for a whole season, which was just a magical experience.
Okay, how exhausted were you though after swimming that long, keeping up with the whale shark? I mean, I know technically they don't swim quickly. It's more of a sort of a casual speed that they go, but for them, that casual speed is easy to maintain for a long distance. For a human swimmer, even with fins, I mean, were you just not exhausted?
Um, Thankfully, I passed the test. I had worked on the Great Barrier Reef, so I was a very good swimmer. I was a good free diver. I was pretty stacked that time of my life. I remember my muscles. I was a little bit bigger than I am now, but it was because I was a pretty good swimmer.
Gotcha.
But there are definitely days where I was so tired, but I couldn't let not only my boat down, but everybody else's boat down.
Right. No, you got a job to do. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a job to do, and we're being as respectful as possible. If the whale shark doesn't want to be around people, then it dives down. You know,
Right.
it's just, I'm over this, and it'll
Yeah.
dive down. And then the boats who hadn't swum with the whale shark yet, they will wait patiently for another whale shark or for that whale shark to come back up. But there was times where my boat captain would say, Steph, when it dives, if you could dive down as deep as you can get and figure out what direction it's going to go, that'd be great.
Oh.
I would free dive so deep until I couldn't see anything anymore, just to figure out what direction it maybe turned,
Right.
so that pop back up, the boats could be ready and waiting with their
Right.
So there was definitely times that I came to the surface, and I remember being dizzy a few times. Uh, yeah, there's a lot of those stories of diving down and thinking I was about to see a whale shark, and then all of a sudden a manta came out of nowhere, and you're like, because there's over there too, and there's pointers, great white sharks, and
Yeah.
I remember coming out of the boat one day being super tired and exhausted, and my boat captain, being a very tough guy that grew up in Western Australia, was like, I should have had you sign a form, for you to realize, like, you're doing this at your own risk, because there are pointers out there, and there are sharks out there, and and I just remember like, wow, this is the craziest stupid job I've ever had in my life.
That is pretty awesome though. So then that does beg the question, did you ever get a really nice photo or video while you were out there of one of your shark encounters?
Of one of my what?
Of one of your shark encounters, those moments where you were
Yeah,
the whale shark. Did you ever get
I
a
did.
decent photo or video? I know there was different times. Digital wasn't quite as advanced, and aquatic cameras are expensive. But
Yep.
do you have anything that you walked away from that you can still look at and reminisce?
I do. I have some photos. At the time, I kick myself now because I love taking photographs, and YouTube is really starting to ramp up, and so I kind of kick myself that I didn't do more of a video journal and get a good camera. But I got a good enough underwater camera, and I do have footage. It's not super great, but it's enough for me. And maybe I'll post those after this.
Yeah, you should. I would love to see like at least a photo, if nothing else, of that moment, because it is unique. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, all of us in the animal world, we have our own experiences, but especially for the average citizen to be in proximity to a whale shark, as you just explained, doesn't happen easily, even for those who are flying airplanes and have boats that are there to spot them. And you have those moments of close intimacy with them. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I've had a lot of moments by myself with a lot of whale sharks. There's ones that were ginormous that in my head it was hard because sometimes we're in the open ocean and you couldn't compare it to anything. I knew they were very large, and we were collecting research at the time too. So I'd be underwater and I'd have to figure out underwater how to measure. Be like, I think this is a
Right.
20-meter whale shark, and we had to guess how old it is, and we always had to dive underneath the whale shark to figure out if it was a male or female. We'd look for any markings or bites. There was regulars there named like Stumpy, where great whites or other sharks had bit them when they were younger.
Mm-hmm.
And we take that information and go onto the boat. And one of the coolest parts is being able to participate in that research of keeping track of these animals, because there's so much we don't know about whale sharks.
Right.
And so yeah, that was a really, really fun part of my job too. But there was so many times where the whale shark spotter would switch places, because I'd been in the water, essentially going alongside it for a long time. So we'd switch, and there was times in that time in between switching, the transition, where I'd get to be by myself with huge whale sharks, with juveniles that were a lot more curious. There was one that was a young baby that started chasing us, because when you kicked, it made bubbles, and in its head, it was like, oh, that's either coral spawn or it's plankton, and it would chase.
Right.
Mama, try to get your fins people out. Like, no, it just thinks you're bubbles. Stop moving. Yeah, lots of really magical experiences. And yes, I do have some photos. I do have some videos. I actually collected more videos for other people, because this is actually the place where I learned how to do underwater film, because I started making those videos of if you were a participant, you would go snorkeling first, and then you would go with snorkeling with the whale sharks, and I would make your video that you could take home. So it was my first experience really learning how to film these animals and hold my breath for a really long time. So yeah, I'll dig through and see if I can find some stuff to post.
That'd be very cool to see, that's for sure. Okay, so we kind of covered how you're doing and what you guys are doing to survive, and of course the animal encounter. I'm trying to keep these to about 30 minutes. We're almost there, but I do want to ask you, Endangered Species Day, with your audience and my audience watching, what would you want to share with those people in that audience, what they could do or should do or keep an eye out for this Friday for Endangered Species Day?
Watch out for this Friday?
Yeah, well, I mean, in the sense of, is there anything somebody should do or participate for or look for on social media, or anything you're doing for Endangered Species Day?
Well, I'm probably going to do a live and discuss some endangered species projects that I've worked on. I haven't picked a time yet, but I'll probably go live to discuss that. I wasn't planning on, I don't really know any events. I guess I haven't gotten that far. Thanks a lot, Rick.
Well, I didn't mean to put you on the spot so much as just, it's an opportunity for those of us who do these kind of communications and raise awareness. Is there anything that you would want to tell somebody? Like, let's say as we wrap this up and you go into your messages on Instagram and someone says, hey, we just saw your live. My daughter really looks up to you. She's 7 years old. What can she do to celebrate or do something for Endangered Species Day? Like, what would you offer up to that person?
Well, I'm going to be a little bit greedy here, I guess. Then I would say one of the coolest things that you could do that's really close to my heart right now is buy a penguin nest. Sponsor a penguin nest for very, very critically endangered African penguins. I know that you've had me on to speak about this project already, but for those who don't know, African penguins are critically endangered. They live off the coast of southern Africa, and my team, my husband and I, and a couple other colleagues, we went down to essentially deploy 300 artificial nests that were made that are really just perfect. The heat, humidity, the airflow, the direction they're placed, the color of white that's on it is all meant to mimic a natural guano burrow, which there's no more guano because humans took it all.
Right.
So this is, to me, we have a lot of endangered species. We have a lot of problems. There's a lot of really hard challenges to get through to save a lot of these species. We need to keep biodiversity as stable and strong as possible. And so to me, there's a lot of options of what you can do, but this is something that you can donate $50 to sponsor a nest, or buy a couple cute organic sustainable stuffed animals and provide a nest to breeding couples that will help chicks make it a little bit further into adulthood to increase the numbers. And it's something you can see, it's effective, we know it works, it's successful. And so that's something you could do, is go to savingpenguins.org and you watch our 12-minute film all about this story of penguins, and then you can go to the shop and purchase a nest, because we're hoping to try to get 2,000 of them this year, and I think we have about 1,000 right now, so we're doing okay, but it's COVID, so we've calmed the messaging down a little bit.
Right, of course. But I think also it's kind of nice to remind people about these projects, as we've all kind of been dealing with a lot. Some people have been furloughed, lost jobs, others working from home. It's also kind of a nice, I think, break to offer up an opportunity for people to learn about the work being done. So thank you for sharing that. And if anyone has not seen that video yet over on savingpenguins.org, I encourage you to see it. Stephanie put a lot of work into that, and it shows. It's a really good video. It's very informative. And the project she's a part of is a same project that AZA facilities are a part of as well when it comes to saving the African penguin. So it is a well thought out project. Those nests that they built weren't just kind of like haphazardly put together. Many organizations came together for quite a few years to figure out the best case scenario for building those nests and what it should be designed like. So yeah, I think that's a great thing to point people towards as we head towards Endangered Species Day. That's for sure. And one of the many species that needs our help. That's unfortunate, but very true.
Yeah, I think the big thing we need to realize is that obviously there's things that we can do. We can start off in our own community first, like take care of your house and your yard and provide plants for pollinators and bat boxes. There's definitely, you have so much more power and control to make a difference than you realize. And as you do it, it builds confidence. You build respect for yourself. You know, if you can do it, then it gives you hope that other people can do it. And that those are all things that help fuel you to take the next actions to see something maybe in your nation or maybe a global project. But we do need to realize that conservation does take money. And so a lot of these projects, mine's going to be $50 for a sponsored nest, right? And we can see it and it works. And so it's a little easier sell than some other things, like trying to pay researchers to watch amphibian numbers because of the chytrid virus, which is really hard to see. And it's hard to follow, and there's a lot of scientific words, but those organizations need money too to be able to try to figure out how to control these funguses and viruses that are attacking our amphibians. So whatever animal it is that you love, I would say first support something in your yard and then your community. And if you have the luxury to go above and beyond, then give a little money to an organization that's credible, that does need the funds to take care of something really important, and just keep supporting them so they can. Because conservation takes a lot of money, but we've learned now hopefully we've learned how important it is, because conservation and biodiversity are not just about saving species. It's about human and public health and wildlife health, nature health, all of it. We're all in this together. We're all connected.
That's for sure. That's for sure. Well, Stephanie, thank you so much. I appreciate you helping me kick off this sort of week into heading towards Endangered Species Day. And tomorrow, the next couple of days, I have some other people I'll be doing lives with to ask the same questions, because I think it's one of those things where we need to share our message and again, help get people excited and inspire people by the stories we have that are those memorable moments. And you did not disappoint. I can't imagine that experience of your first whale shark encounter, not just that you have an encounter, but to actually get hit by it. So that was a very good story. So thank you for sharing that. I greatly appreciate it.
It's moments like that fuel up your heart and remind you that we're all living beings. We're all trying to survive, and it's magic. Life is magic, Rick.
It really is. It really is. And I think you ended it well by saying it's not just about conservation for the animals. It's all connected. It helps save us as well and makes us healthy. So I appreciate that. So with that said, Steph, thank you so much. I'm sure we will be in touch again. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of take over the whole live thing here on my own. So I hope you are stay well, and say hi to Tim for me, and we'll be in touch.
All right. See you guys
later.
later.
Have a good one.
I think you have to sign.
All right. So that's going to be it for my first live this week. I'm doing one tomorrow. I'm excited that tomorrow's guest is not actually from the animal side of things. All my guests that are lined up shy of this one person are all people in the animal world, whether it's communications or conservation or doing zoo work or whatever it may be. But tomorrow's guest is somebody I met back in 2013 who has always been very welcoming with allowing me to share my message on their platform. I'll leave it at that for now. I will post my stories later this evening, who it's going to be and what time it will be. I believe we've settled on about 10:15 a.m. Pacific time tomorrow morning. So I hope you can join us. It will be fun. I don't doubt that. So I will say for now, thank you all for who signed in, joined us, listened to Stephanie's cool story about her moments. As we get through Endangered Species Day, I'll probably do one more live on the weekend for myself, just me telling you about one of my more memorable moments too. So with that, I will say goodbye, everybody. Have a wonderful day, and I hope you stay healthy.